Hey, Coach Jody, here, and as always, really looking forward to this on the couch session here with you where I share some of my thoughts and my thinking on cricket, on the mental game, and on whatever else comes up really while I sit here. For today, I'm chatting with you a little bit more about this idea of form. So I've made another YouTube video about that where I talk about why I believe it doesn't exist. However, for some people, the experience of form is real, right? And it is how they define their game. And so I had a coach who's asked me about, what does it actually mean to be in form? And so if you are going to go through your cricketing career or your cricket life or the phase of your existence as a cricketer, right? And you buy into this idea of that form exists, and you buy into the idea that there is something like being in form and being out of form, then for me, you are setting up the reality within you that you will be on a roller coaster ride, right? I'll be in form and I'll be out of form, and I'll be in form and I'll be out of form. And the idea would be that when I'm in form, I try and extend it and I try and make that space as long as I can. And when I'm out of form, I try and keep it as short as possible. Most performance happens like that, right? If you look at the best in the world, if you look at the average in the world, if you look at club cricketers, if you look at schoolboy cricketers, it doesn't really matter who you look at. Everybody has these peaks in performance and lows in performance. And I think we just use this language about form to explain that. To me, I don't think form exists. I just think that's how performance works. Deal with it. Learn the lessons when you're down here. Make sure that I forgot the words now. That you capitalize sort of on when you in your peak of your performance. But when people talk about it as form, then it becomes this mystical thing, right? It's this thing that's out there. Oh, I'm in form now. And so when we're out of form, it's not necessarily a mindset of learning. And when we're in form, it's not necessarily a mindset of learning and growing and extending and expanding and figuring out how we're actually being so awesome. It's just a case of, I'm here, I'm just going to enjoy the ride. Oh, I'm down at the bottom now, and it sucks, right? And so I don't believe in that emotion, in trying to set up our minds before the time for that emotional roller coaster. Having said that, right, to answer this question, what does it mean to be in form? I first want to just chat a little bit about what it means to not be in form, right? So because it's this bell thing that you're setting up for yourself, out of formness will always follow a period of being in form. And so it's important to maybe understand what causes that to happen, yeah? So I find, right, that there's two reasons people go out of form. And so the one is because they're busy performing and because they're busy doing really well, they start thinking and start operating from a place of, oh, this is easy. I got this game waxed, right? I know what's happening here. I've got this down. And so with that sort of a mindset, complacency kicks in. And so when complacency kicks in, then we're not paying as much attention to the things that actually work for us. We're not engaging with our performance in the same way, mentally and emotionally. And so I find that once that shift takes place in a player, where they're setting into complacency, you'll start setting down that slippery slope, right? And so the second thing that also affects that for me is when there's a shift of focus from being, like I said, mentally and emotionally involved in the process to outcome. So it's an amazing thing to see, right? Start of a cricket season. I love that time of year because there's so much anticipation about the season ahead. I think cricketers in the UK are going into the start of their season right now. Where in South Africa, we're sort of at the back end of the season. But there's always this anticipation at the start of season, like I'm going to do so well, and people set their goals, and then they say, oh, I'm going to make so many runs and I'm going to average so much. I'm going to take so many wickets in my league this year. I hope I get that award at the end of the year where I'm the leading wicket taker or the leading run scorer. And we all want these accolades. But now those things, right, have this real ability to actually get us to go out of form. Because after a couple of games, or even in the middle of the season or towards the back end, so time doesn't really matter that much. As soon as we shift our focus to say, oh shucks, I'm not averaging what I need to average, I have to up my average, or I have to score more runs, or oh shucks, I have to take 3 wickets in this next game to be back on the top of that leaderboard, or to be the main bowler in my club. As soon as you do that, as soon as you shift your mind, in my mind, you're starting to set up being out of form. Because a focus on outcome doesn't serve performance. Yes, it can serve as a motivation. Yes, it can serve as an energy to strive, to improve, to get better. But it actually doesn't guarantee you any performance. In my mind, it actually just hinders performance, and it generates a little bit of 9 out of 10 times like a desperate, needy energy that actually doesn't serve performance really well. And so if players are in this period where they are out of form, then what tends to then happen in that space is overcomplicating things, overthinking things, overanalyzing things. All of a sudden, technique must change. I think I've seen it all. Maybe there's still some more things I haven't seen, but I've seen quite a lot about how players go into that phase, and all of a sudden, the way they hold the bat, that must change. I can't hold the bat like this anymore. I've got to tweak my bat. Is my grip right? And am I standing correctly? Must I be in my crease, out my crease, more on off stump, more on leg stump? So it becomes this overthinking, overanalyzing thing that players do, and then you're a mess, right? Then you're a mess. Plans are out the window, strategies are out the window, internal processes are out the window. None of that stuff that actually can serve and benefit your performance will exist, because you're just down in the dumps, right? Emotionally, you'll feel flat. It's actually not a great place to be. Sorry. And so normally, to start turning that ship around and to start moving ahead and moving forward, to me, the best thing to do is to almost like try and remember when you were in form, right? When you were playing at your best, what were you doing? What were you busy with? And so I think that for the most players that I know and that I've worked with and that I've helped with this sort of stuff, that as soon as they find clarity again, so instead of it being messy, we make it simple. We get back to the things that work for them internally and externally. We find the things that bring about clarity, so that when they go out there and bat, they know what they want to do, right? And they really just do that. And so that's the next step to me, is that real engagement. So it's one thing to have a plan and a strategy and a process, and sort of just tick the box. It's another thing to actually engage with that and pour yourself into it and allow it to get a life of its own, right? I'm out there performing. I'm not out there just ticking boxes, making sure I took my mark. I stood at the top of my mark. I looked up and I made sure I focused on the top of off stump, and I ran in and I bowled there. Even though that can help, right? It's not just that. It's really sort of turning on your awareness and engaging mind, body, soul, emotion, everything, engaging with the performance in a very clear and simple way. And so I believe that when people are informed, they do that naturally without even recognizing it, or without really being conscious of it. Sort of, it's just flow. That's why it feels so nice, right? It's almost like we're in euphoria. We're just floating along, performance, and then we hit something, maybe, because, and so this is the last thing I want to say on this, is that I believe that when people are in form, right, that they distance themselves from the result. They distance themselves from the actual performance. They don't care so much whether they make runs or don't make runs. The problem is when there's now a little string of a couple of not runs, or not taking wickets, then these other things kick in, right? Oh shucks, focus on the result, boom, drop into out of formness. Or I perform so well for such a long period of time, and then I get a bit of complacent, boom, and then all of a sudden I got a couple of low scores, or not taking wickets, and then boom, I'm out of form. And so I believe that when people are in form, right, and they are busy performing, that they're actually disconnected from the outcome of that performance. They are not attached to it. They're not engaging with, oh yes, I've got one run. Oh, I've got one wicket. Oh, if I get two more, they're not thinking like that. They are literally just saying, what's the next ball? Where do I have to bowl that? Within this context, right now, what do I need to do to be my best? And so I think the more we can practice that, the simpler the clarity, the engaging with the process, the more you can extend your periods of form. And when you start finding yourself dipping in performance, to not necessarily go into complacency, and when you are performing for extended periods of time, to make sure that you are keep engaging and you keep it fresh and you keep it real and you keep finding ways to spur you on to perform in the way that you want to perform, instead of just going, I got this, yeah. Sure, I don't think I've got anything else more to say about this, to be honest. So as always, if there was some value in this for you, you're more than welcome to share this video, and I would greatly appreciate that. You can get in touch with me on Instagram, Facebook, wherever you've sort of seen this, or even on YouTube video, comment below. You can go to my website, thecricketmind.com, get in touch with me through there. Like I said, I really hope there was some value in this for you, and I hope you have a great day. Cheers. Catch you next time on the couch.